Man, Stephen A. Stephen A. Smith, man, let me tell you. And if for you people who are watching this who don't know who Stephen A. Smith is, look at the picture that is on your screen right now. That's Stephen A. Smith. Some of you may know Stephen A. Smith from doing, memes on Instagram and, from his hot and harsh takes. But this one takes the cake. Um, Earlier last week, Steve Nash got hired for the Brooklyn Nets job, who desperately needed a coach. I'm not a Nets fan, but um, Kenny Atkinson was not the coach for that team whatsoever. And they needed a coach, and Steve Nash, who had no coaching experience, got hired by Sean Marks, who was the GM of the Brooklyn Nets. And the two stars of that team, Kyrie Irving, for who you guys who don't know him, is the guy who thinks that the world is flat. And Kevin Durant, whose season ended last year prematurely because of an Achilles injury. And they're both black. I'm pretty sure everybody already knew that, but to better understand what I'm talking about, we have to put everything into context. These are two black self made superstar players. Those two co signed on a person who has no coaching experience being a coach, who is Steve Nash. Now, Steve Nash was a brilliant basketball player. I had the luxury of watching him when I grew up. And for you people who don't know who he is, he's a white Canadian basketball player who changed the league, came in. You could make arguments about whether he's top five, this and that. One of the best passing point guards, one of the best pick and roll point guards, one of the best shooting point guards we've ever seen. Um, yeah, and he had no coaching experience. He had a Hall of Fame career and never got to win a championship with Kobe when he played for the Lakers, which was sad and disappointing. But he had a hell of a career, and he won MVPs and all that other stuff, that solidified him as a Hall of Famer. But had no coaching experience and got hired by the Brooklyn Nets, who were looking for a coach. And Stephen A. comes on TV and suggests that the only reason why Steve Nash was hired was because he's white. White privilege is not a real thing. For you people who still think it's a thing, it's not. But insisting that he got hired because he's white. And I have so many issues with this because in the time that we're going through right now with racism and police brutality and all these things, you want to sit here on a platform and, spread misinformation and bullshit because you have a platform, and then 2 days later double down saying, I get to say whatever I want to say. I don't care. I have this platform. I don't. It's just disingenuous. Um, he also goes on to state that there wasn't any black people that were given an opportunity without coaching experience or with coaching experience. And that's a lie. Mark Jackson was a coach. Maurice Cheeks was a coach who coached for my old Philadelphia 76ers team when I was young. Um, Tyronn Lue won a championship with Kobe. You have black coaches who won. And to sit here and suggest because this person has no coaching experience, you know, and they're white is the only reason why they got the job is racist. It's blatantly racist. And it's yes, black people can be racist too. And he's being racist. And nobody wants to say anything. They all just go on TV and they just sit there and look at him and say, yeah, yeah. They just agree with what he says, and it's racist. And to sit here and we talk about, blacks being mistreated with racism, well, how is it acceptable if Stephen A. Smith is being a black guy on TV being racist against a white guy who he states he's never had an issue with in his life? It makes no sense. And, his argument that was a weak argument was, black head coach candidates who've never had a coaching experience or anything never get offered the opportunity to be a coach for a team with superstar players. So they're only given the bottom feeder jobs. Well, Brett Brown, who was just fired by the Philadelphia 76ers, had a bottom feeding job until Ben and Joel were there. He started the whole he led the team through the dark years. He was there 7 years. Most people don't know that. He had so many mismatched players he was given by the GM that was terrible, and Colangelo and Elton Brand giving him just a bunch of no-name players and said make it work. That's the definition of a bottom feeding job. Brett Brown's white. He's from Maine. That's pretty much as white as it gets. And nobody sits here and says, "Oh, well, Brett Brown is white. You know, he was given a bottom feeding job." And then look what happened. He got deep into the playoffs the last 3 years and couldn't win and got fired. That's the cycle of life as being a coach. You know, I don't want to interpret what Stephen A. is saying, but it kind of just feels like, if there's any vacancy, black people are just supposed to be given a job. Like, you have to have qualifications, okay? Just look at the NFL. Most ex-NFL quarterbacks become, analysts or coaches, or they do stuff in the film room for teams and stuff. Why is that? Oh, well, they have no coaching experience being a coach. Yeah, but they played the game and they see it better than other people who've never even been in this type of, atmosphere. You can coach, but it's a whole different thing to play the game. Steve Nash has the personal experience of playing the game, being a top-tier MVP player who was, incredible during his time, and can relate as a person and as a basketball player with the team. Like, certain coaches can't bond with teams because they don't understand. But when you have a guy like Steve Nash who knows the ups and downs of a season and can understand the mindset and the mental health of an athlete, regardless if he's white or black, is intriguing to me as a player, because it's like, well, at least this coach is going to understand what I'm going through. And KD and Kyrie, everybody can say, oh, well, there was, they need to figure out, like, who's the alpha, who's this, who's that. Is this coach going to be able to help them and tame them? It wasn't that. The only reason why Steve Nash was hired, honestly, was so that Kevin Durant and Kyrie can go out and do what they have to do. And they're not going to have people sit here and be yes men. These two guys are trying to be better. Unfortunately, both of those two were injured. But Kenny Atkinson was the poor version of Brett Brown. He was leading the Nets through a dark time too, got to the playoffs and then lost to the Sixers and got fired. It's the circle of life, especially in sports. I just think it's very bad. However you look at it, Stephen A. wants to cry racism and, black people don't get offered opportunities. Then what the hell are you doing on TV? Sitting here saying, I don't care about what people say about me because I'm black. That's privilege right there. They can't fire you because people that are in charge of these companies are too scared to fire you because of racism. And he's using that against his employers. And the fact that he won't even apologize for something so destructive is just I don't know, it just blows my mind. Stephen A's just been giving terrible takes these recent couple weeks. He's been pretty decent up until this point, but it's just getting out of hand now. Somebody's got to say something. Let me know what you think in the comments about Stephen A. and his gripe with Steve Nash about becoming a coach. All right, peace.